Welcome to CompuScholar's Professional Development Webinar for October of 2025. Today we're going to be exploring our report dashboard that is available to all students and teachers. So we'll start off and do a quick introduction to the report dashboard, and then we'll give you a walkthrough of all the reports that are available both from the teacher and the student perspective. CompuScholar has always had comprehensive reporting built into our student and teacher menus, and the report dashboard is brand new as of July of 2025. So we've replaced the old reporting engine that was actually a third-party service that was originally a good fit for us, but over time became a little bit too slow and complex and hard to find pertinent information. And so we've replaced that this year with a brand new reporting engine that's developed by us. It is straightforward and fast and has useful information right at your fingertips. And this report dashboard is again available to all users, all students, all teachers, whether you're in public or private school or an individual family. Okay, we're going to start off and do a teacher walkthrough, and we'll show you what reports can be run from the teacher perspective. I've logged into our system with a sample teacher account, and you can see I'm in a test course right now, and we've got our familiar teachers menu off to the left. We'll click on Report Dashboard. So this report dashboard has a lot of handy features. Up in the top left, you'll see a drop down. If this teacher was enrolled in multiple courses, you would be able to switch between those courses here. You're also able to switch between this main dashboard panel and the specific reports that we'll cover in a moment, and the date that the reports were created. Also on the panel, you see a brief summary of this particular class with the number of students enrolled, the average grade, and so forth. You see a couple of charts here that break down the students into groups in terms of how well they're doing in terms of the grade and the amount of time they've spent in the course. And so there's not a lot of data in this test course, so there's not a lot of meaningful information here right now. But as you run classes over a longer period of time, these panels will become richer and richer. Okay, let's take a look at the reports. We'll start off with class engagement. And I'm going to hide the teacher menu to give us some more room. So this report will give you a broad overview on each student and the amount of time that they've spent within the class. So you can see the student's first login, their last login, the total number of logins, and the overall amount of time they've spent in the course, and as well as their overall course grade. So the time spent in the course is our best calculation of how much time the student has spent looking at a lesson, watching a video, taking a quiz and test, working on an activity, and so forth. You'll see there's a magnifying glass here next to each student, so we can click on that magnifying glass to reach a different report. That is the student engagement report for that particular student. The student engagement report for a particular student will take a deeper dive on the specific course elements that the student has been accessing and the amount of time spent in each element. So you can see this particular sample student has spent a few seconds with a particular video, some additional time in a particular lesson text, and so on. And again, this data is very brief with this test student, but you can imagine it will grow to be very, very dense over a long period of time as your student accesses more materials within the course. So if your student is struggling with a particular lesson or a particular activity or a particular quiz, it might be useful to come in here and take a look and just see how much time the student is spending actually consuming that course material. So that's the class engagement and student engagement report. Let's take a look at the student grade detail. So this report will give you summary information about the grades accumulated in the gradebook. We'll pick a particular student, and then you can see a table with all of the graded items broken down into categories with the grade earned and the latest time they completed that activity. So you've got categories for quizzes, exams, activities, and if there were homework problems, there will be homework problems as well. So this will give you a quick view of when students have completed each activity and the grade that they earned. Next, let's take a look at the recent student activity report. This report gives you a summary for the entire class of the things that the students have done within the system, and this report covers about the last 30 days or so. So the system does keep detailed logs of every click and every action the student takes within our course materials. And this gives you a good summary of when they've logged in, when they've submitted things, and so on. This particular report mixes all the students together. And if we want to focus on a specific student, we can do that. Next, let's look at the content utilization summary. So what this report is going to do is look at each course element by itself and see how much time and effort overall your students have spent as a class with that particular resource. So you can see, for example, that we've had 3 student clicks on the Chapter 2 Lesson 1 text, and the students in aggregate spent a certain amount of time within that resource. And so this gives you a big picture view of how well your class is engaging with a specific resource within the course. You can click the magnifying glass next to a particular item or go down to the content utilization detail. So let's go ahead and do that. And this report will focus on just that one specific resource, in this case the Chapter 2 Lesson 1 text, and it'll break down student by student how many times each student has clicked on that resource and the amount of time they've spent within that resource. Next, let's take a look at the assessment analysis. The assessment analysis could be your first stop as you start analyzing the quizzes and tests to figure out how well students are doing. So for the Chapter 1 Lesson 1 quiz, for example, there was one student that completed it. These are the times of completion, the fastest and the slowest time that were taken, and the average student grade. So this gives you a big picture view of how well your students are scoring on average for a particular quiz, as well as how long they're taking to complete those quizzes. Let's focus on a specific quiz by clicking the magnifying glass here. And this takes us to the remedial suggestions report, which is the last report in the list. So the remedial suggestions report will actually enumerate all of the questions within this specific quiz. So we're focused on the Chapter 2 Lesson 1 quiz here. There are 5 questions. So this tells you of everybody in the class that submitted answers to these questions, which questions on average were answered rightly or wrongly. So you can see your class overall, everybody got questions 1 and 2, only half the class got questions 3 and 4, and so on. You can see a summary of the question over here to the right. You can click the plus sign to get a better view of the answers as well. And so this is a great tool for remedial planning. You can look at your quizzes and see where your student's struggling, where they're doing well, and refocus any type of remedial effort that you have on the questions that, by and large, the students were not answering correctly. So that's a quick walkthrough of the reports that are currently available from the teacher perspective. I will mention we do have the export capability as well. So any of these reports, you can pull down the export field and export it to a PDF, to an Excel spreadsheet, or to a CSV file. So you may want to export reports periodically or before you lose access to the class over the summer. Okay, that was a quick walkthrough of the teacher reports. Now we're going to log in as a student and see a couple of reports that are also available from the student perspective. Okay, we are logged in as a student. You can see a student menu here off to the left. You see the familiar report dashboard link. And we'll again hide the student menu just to give us a little bit more room. Now on the student report dashboard, there's a few different graphics here. You have the familiar ability to toggle between courses if the student is enrolled in multiple courses. You have the ability to select between the 2 reports that we provide for the students. And if you look at the graphics, these are just pie charts that show how many quizzes you completed out of all the quizzes in the course, how many exams, and how many activities along with your average score. And you've got the overall course completion here at the bottom. Again, this is a test student that has not accumulated very much data, but as your student makes progress through the course, these reports will naturally fill out with data. Okay, we do provide access to 2 reports for the students. First is a recent activity. And this is a familiar report. You've already seen it over on the teacher side, but it is focused on a specific student. So this gives the students a good idea of how the system is tracking their efforts over the last 30 days. So you can see each time the student has logged in, when they've submitted quizzes and tests, and other major milestones. So if a student comes to you and says, hey, I'm working really hard, I've spent XYZ amount of time in the system and I'm not getting the results that I want, this might be a good way just to sit down with the student and run this report and make sure that the student is actually doing what you think they're doing. And the second report is the student engagement report. And this one again should be familiar to you after looking at the teacher reports. This gives you a resource by resource explanation of how much time this specific student has spent in a resource. So if the student comes to you and says, hey, I've spent a ton of time on the Chapter 1, Lesson 1 text, you can come in here and double check, or the student can come in here and double check for themselves to see this is how much time the system has actually recorded you spending. And the student might want to run this report before coming to the teacher to say, hey, I need help in a particular area, just to get a feel for how much time they're actually spending in a resource versus how much time they think they're spending in a resource. So at the moment, we only have 2 reports for the students. We may add additional reports in the future, so check back here for additional options. So speaking of new reports, let's look ahead to the future for a little bit. We may add additional reports over time, and we would love to hear your suggestions. So what kind of data do you need? How do you need it presented to you? Please make a suggestion to us. A lot of the things that we're presenting to you are requests from teachers that we've accumulated over time. And if you encounter any problems, certainly let us know. This is a new reporting engine as of July of 2025, and so we will continue to refine and improve the reports over time as things are reported to us. As always, we appreciate your time. Thanks for watching, and don't hesitate to contact us with questions. You can reach us by phone, by email, or through our website.